We start at the place of discomfort, at the uneasy truth most prefer not to acknowledge openly. It's the truth you sense instinctively. Not everyone who claims to support you genuinely does. You've felt this subtle undercurrent, haven't you? In moments of victory, when excitement floods your voice, there's always someone whose glance quickly drops, whose applause feels rehearsed, whose joy never quite reaches their eyes. It's easy to dismiss this as overthinking or paranoia, but deep down, you know it's neither. It's something far subtler, far more insidious, something Carl Jung famously named the shadow. This shadow isn't the obvious kind of jealousy that openly declares itself, nor is it the envy that screams out loud. It's hidden beneath a carefully constructed facade of friendliness and support, wrapped in smiles too perfect to trust and congratulations too hollow to be authentic. It's the secret resentment camouflaged as playful teasing, the envy dressed as sarcastic humor, the competition masked as companionship. And over time, slowly, without even noticing, you find your energy depleting. You begin to question yourself, not in obvious ways, but subtly, persistently, little by little. This hidden erosion of your confidence is exactly what the shadow desires, and it thrives precisely because it remains unseen, unnamed, unaddressed. Think about those sly remarks you've heard, comments disguised as jokes, smiles concealing sharper edges. Perhaps you've brushed them off as harmless banter, yet each time they left a faint residue of doubt, an unsettling feeling you couldn't shake. This isn't accidental, it's strategic. People who harbor this quiet hostility don't openly oppose your growth. Rather, they use understated sabotage, subtle discouragement, gentle undermining. A comment here, a whispered piece of advice there, carefully phrased to implant hesitation, precisely when courage matters most. Carl Jung explained clearly, when people refuse to acknowledge their inner darkness, their shadow doesn't vanish. It hides, watching for opportunities to project itself onto others. The unresolved bitterness, unexpressed disappointment, and unspoken envy festering within them gradually find their outlet in attempts to diminish you. They won't directly confront your accomplishments or openly challenge your ideas. That would be too transparent, too risky. Instead, they surround you quietly, cloaked in pretense, wearing the mask of friends whose real intentions lie deep beneath the surface. You might have noticed how these individuals share their successes, not for genuine joy, not from heartfelt enthusiasm, but to measure your reactions, to quietly affirm their status, to check exactly where you stand in their imagined hierarchy. These are not connections formed from empathy or mutual growth. They're subtle, emotional battlegrounds. Each achievement you share feels like a threat to them, each progression an affront. So they respond not with genuine support, but with calculated politeness designed only to maintain appearances. Yet what makes this dynamic especially complicated and unnerving is that those who wield this shadowy behavior aren't always fully conscious of it themselves. Their darkness functions almost independently, driven by deeply buried insecurities, silently compelling them to undermine others. Their shadow propels them to project onto you all their own limitations, resentments, and regrets. They might even believe they're your genuine friends, completely unaware of the toxic undertones coloring every interaction. You become a convenient target, a mirror upon which they cast their self-doubts, thus relieving themselves momentarily of their internal torment. And you, unknowingly, may become trapped in this intricate emotional web, always second-guessing your instincts. Society teaches us that suspicion of friends is morally wrong, unfair, perhaps even ungrateful. Yet suspicion here isn't paranoia, it's clarity, wisdom born from recognizing patterns, from trusting the subtle warnings your intuition constantly sends. Because if ignored, the shadow grows stronger, becoming dangerously powerful in the denial surrounding it. This makes self-awareness indispensable. You must sharpen your perceptions, recognize the subtle signs of manipulation, feel clearly when someone's energy drains rather than uplifts you. Observe carefully how you feel after certain interactions. Do you leave conversations feeling enriched or subtly depleted? Do you find your enthusiasm dimming, your doubts multiplying? These feelings are not random. They're signals from your intuition, the compass guiding you toward healthy relationships and away from those feeding off your vitality. Yet awareness alone isn't enough. You must also take decisive, mindful actions to protect yourself. The crucial insight here is not to confront aggressively, not to create dramatic conflicts that grant these individuals precisely the attention they crave. Rather, it's about quietly, decisively setting boundaries, firmly limiting their access to your emotional landscape. Distance can be your greatest ally, a quiet shield behind which you guard your peace without needing to justify your actions or explain your reasoning. Remember, not everyone deserves front-row access to your inner life. Some people belong on the outskirts of your emotional world, safely kept where their negativity can't penetrate your core. Recognizing and implementing these boundaries isn't cruelty, it's essential self-care. It's understanding that your energy, enthusiasm, and self-belief are precious commodities, never to be squandered on those who secretly work to undermine you. Your greatest tool is awareness coupled with quiet assertion. When you sense subtle sarcasm, hidden venom, disguised hostility, respond by consciously limiting exposure, gently yet firmly creating emotional space. Emotional clarity is your weapon, self-respect your armor, because ultimately, it's your self-awareness that disarms these shadowy interactions. By knowing yourself deeply, you become unshakable, unmoved by attempts to project their insecurities onto you. You become resilient, autonomous, emotionally sovereign. Carl Jung emphasized that ignoring the shadow allows it to grow stronger, more destructive. Acknowledging and confronting it, not with outward conflict but with inward clarity, is the only path to genuine emotional freedom. Know this clearly. Their discomfort with your achievements, your brightness, is not evidence of your faults. It merely reflects their unresolved pain, their inner inadequacy. It's their shadow's voice, not yours. Your success doesn't diminish them. Rather, it reveals their fear of facing their own limitations. This isn't about fearing every person or suspecting every friendly gesture. Rather, it's about living mindfully, awake to the energies around you, attentive to your emotional landscape. It's about placing your inner peace above appeasing everyone's emotional needs, understanding that self-protection isn't selfishness. It's necessary survival. Cultivate your inner strength diligently, because that's where real protection lies. Solidify your boundaries, nurture your self-esteem, deepen your introspection, and build an inner sanctuary no outside shadow can breach. The more fortified your inner world becomes, the weaker external manipulations grow. They simply cannot penetrate where self-assurance reigns, where clarity illuminates every emotional corner. Remember this always. The shadow only gains strength when you neglect your self-awareness, when you surrender emotional independence in pursuit of others' approval. So fortify your inner landscape, nurture your sense of self, and refuse emotional dependence. Reject the silent, toxic validation offered by those who secretly envy your growth. Instead, cultivate self-validation, self-confidence, independent judgment. Be your own greatest ally, your strongest advocate. In the end, remember clearly, the darkness others project onto you is merely an illusion, a shadow cast by their insecurities, their unresolved emotional wounds. Your light, your energy, your self-assurance aren't diminished by their resentment. Indeed, your power to shine genuinely terrifies them, because it exposes their hidden inadequacies. Stay alert, remain vigilant, attuned not only to their actions, but more importantly, to your responses. Cultivate your emotional intuition, trust your instincts completely, and never silence the inner voice guiding you away from those who secretly sabotage your spirit. And remember, above all, guard your inner peace fiercely. Protect it vigilantly, knowing it's not simply a preference or luxury, but an absolute necessity for your well-being. Your mental and emotional freedom depends on your willingness to set boundaries, to assert quietly but definitively that you will not tolerate subtle manipulations or covert hostilities. Ultimately, your triumph isn't measured by how many you confront or how many you unmask, but by how gracefully, wisely, and quietly you protect the sacred space within you, the space they tried but failed to breach. Now, there's a deeper, more unsettling truth lurking beneath everything we've discussed, a truth few people dare to openly confront, because acknowledging it means exposing ourselves to vulnerability, to the raw edges of human interactions. These hidden shadows we've explored don't just limit themselves to subtle sabotage or gentle undermining from afar. They sometimes seek to reshape your very identity, quietly and methodically rewriting your sense of self until your reflection feels unfamiliar. This isn't merely about diminishing your achievements or clouding your moments of joy. It's something much darker, far more insidious, and infinitely more personal. These people, adept at their quiet manipulation, understand something profoundly troubling: that if they control how you perceive yourself, they gain unparalleled influence over your entire life. Their tactics are not aggressive confrontations or obvious criticisms. Instead, they whisper doubt into your ear, planting tiny seeds of insecurity that slowly, relentlessly take root. Over time, these seeds grow, twisting your self-image, distorting your self-worth, reshaping the way you view your potential until you scarcely recognize the person you've become. This form of emotional manipulation is subtle, silent, and relentless. It's designed to trap you in a state of perpetual dependence, forever seeking validation from the very individuals who systematically erode your confidence. They carefully administer their approval, doling it out in small, calculated doses, just enough to keep you craving their acceptance, yet always withholding enough to leave you perpetually unsure. It's a twisted psychology, manufactured dependency disguised as concern, wrapped in layers of superficial kindness. You might not even realize it's happening until it's already reshaped your thoughts, twisted your dreams, and quietly diminished your ambitions. At first, you might only question small decisions, tiny hesitations, moments of subtle doubt that barely register. But as time passes, those tiny uncertainties compound, growing into larger, more pervasive doubts. Suddenly, you question everything: your goals, your capabilities, even your deepest beliefs about who you are and what you're meant to become. And all the while, these shadowy figures observe your slow transformation with quiet satisfaction, carefully managing your doubts, molding your insecurities, crafting you into the diminished version of yourself they feel comfortable around. This isn't accidental. It's intentional, strategic, a calculated erosion of your identity. Carl Jung warned us explicitly about the dangers of shadow projection, the way unresolved inner darkness seeks to replicate itself within others, spreading its emotional poison outward. People who can't confront their own inadequacies instead project them onto those around them, transforming friends, loved ones, even casual acquaintances into mirrors, reflecting their inner turmoil. And the tragedy here is that their shadows don't simply fade when exposed to the light. They adapt, shifting forms, disguising themselves anew, continuously seeking fresh targets and new vulnerabilities to exploit. The real danger arises when you try to break free from this carefully constructed emotional cage. When you finally gather enough strength to reclaim your identity, something curious and incredibly disturbing occurs. Those who've manipulated you don't simply step aside and let you escape. Instead, they begin what might be called a reverse rescue. They express concern, lamenting the changes they observe in you, subtly accusing you of losing sight of who you truly are. Yet the version of yourself they claim to mourn never truly existed. It was merely the weakened, dependent image they carefully cultivated for their own benefit. Their true fear isn't that you might lose yourself, it's that you might find yourself. It's not your supposed arrogance or newfound confidence that bothers them. It's the loss of their control over your perceptions. Because once you reclaim your clarity, once your eyes fully open, their manipulations become blatantly visible, impossible to ignore. You see through their feigned affection, recognizing their carefully hidden agendas, understanding clearly the depths to which they've gone to keep you diminished. But here's the true power, the profound liberation that comes when you reclaim your emotional independence. Once you detach from their carefully managed approval, once your validation becomes internal rather than external, their control evaporates completely. They can no longer hold sway over your decisions, emotions, or perceptions. You become unpredictable, uncontrollable, entirely self-contained. Someone whose inner strength terrifies them precisely because it renders their manipulations utterly powerless. Achieving this emotional independence, however, requires courage. It demands something many fear deeply: embracing solitude, not loneliness, born of sadness or rejection, but solitude chosen freely, deliberately, purposefully. Within this sacred silence, far from external noise and manipulative whispers, your authentic self slowly emerges. You reconnect with genuine ambitions, reclaim forgotten dreams, rediscover ideas and emotions you buried to avoid making others uncomfortable. It's in this quiet space, in profound introspection, where your true identity, once distorted, reconstructs itself, stronger and more resilient than ever before. And when this happens, those who sought to control you experience a unique fear. Your newfound independence unsettles them profoundly. They see clearly that their emotional crumbs no longer hold any attraction, that their subtle manipulations no longer breach your defenses. This transformation makes you enigmatic, unreachable, and untouchable, a person whose self-assurance they can't undermine, whose peace they can no longer disturb. Understand clearly, though, that these manipulative figures are driven less by genuine malice and more by unbearable self-reflection. Your growth, your self-assurance, acts as an unbearable mirror, reflecting their own stagnation, their buried regrets, their lost dreams. Every time you rise higher, they're forced to confront the harsh reality of their own fears, inadequacies, and limitations. Your success doesn't simply trigger envy. It reveals the painful gap between who they could have become and who they chose to remain. Thus, the true art of overcoming these shadows isn't confrontation, it isn't aggression, and it certainly isn't revenge in the traditional sense. Instead, it's the quiet, steadfast commitment to becoming the fullest, most authentic version of yourself, unfiltered by external manipulations. It's understanding that the greatest revenge against those who sought to diminish you is simply becoming undeniably, unapologetically yourself, living boldly, authentically, without ever seeking their approval or validation. Yet even this isn't the full story. Because the shadows never vanish completely, new ones continually emerge, dressed differently but driven by the same unresolved darkness. Life, in all its complexity, constantly introduces fresh faces with hidden agendas, subtle manipulations disguised as friendship, love, or mentorship. It's not something to fear, however. Rather, it's something to anticipate with clarity, understanding, and inner strength. Because here lies the final, most empowering truth. Real strength isn't found in living a life free of shadows. It's in becoming a person so filled with genuine self-awareness and authentic light that shadows lose their power entirely. It's in building a self so resilient, so deeply anchored in clarity and self-love that attempts at manipulation simply fail to penetrate. Shadows will come and shadows will go, but your inner illumination remains unyielding, unwavering, unbreakable. When your inner world becomes this fortified, something extraordinary happens. Those unable to stand the intensity of your emotional clarity simply remove themselves. The subtle manipulators, emotional vampires, and quiet saboteurs instinctively withdraw, repelled by your unmistakable authenticity, your unwavering self-respect. Your clarity becomes a natural filter, protecting you from unnecessary emotional turmoil, quietly and efficiently. And here's the profound beauty of it all. You no longer have to struggle, argue, or battle for respect. Your very existence becomes a statement of empowerment, resilience, and emotional freedom. You become the embodiment of a strength so profound, so vibrant, that manipulation, envy, and shadows simply cannot coexist within your personal space. This kind of emotional strength doesn't merely benefit you, it radiates outward, inspiring others to reclaim their own authenticity, their own emotional independence. So, as you move forward from this moment, carry these truths within you. Hold fiercely to your inner strength, embrace your emotional solitude, celebrate your independence from manipulative validation. Most importantly, never shrink from shining brightly. Never compromise your authenticity for temporary acceptance. Because ultimately, shadows only exist in spaces deprived of genuine illumination. In the end, the greatest victory isn't proving your worth to those who doubted you. It's discovering that their approval was never necessary. True success is becoming so wholly, undeniably yourself, that shadows simply cease to matter. Let this become your mantra, your inner truth, your guiding principle. And as you step forward from here, empowered and unburdened, always remember, your journey is yours alone to define, your identity, yours alone to shape. No shadow has the power to rewrite the story you're destined to create, unless you willingly hand them the pen. From now on, that pen remains firmly, decisively in your hands.